Hi guys, today we're going to look at these 3 watercolor flowers and we're going to look at ways to help your watercolor look more painterly. So the first one will just be a flat wash, and then we will look at 2 different techniques that I like to use all the time to enhance my paintings. So as always, I'm using my Faber-Castell graphite, the watercolor lead pencil, and I'll link it below. And so we're just starting out with an oval. It's a very simple sketch. So it's an oval tilted a little bit to the right, and then around that we're going to do a bunch of this like little dots for stamens. So it's still a loose sketch, and then we're just going to do sort of some of the teardrop sort of shaped petals coming out from around there, and then some larger petals. So rather than doing the regular round petals, we're sort of squaring them off a little bit, or making them a little bit more like a trapezoid. So you can see here, and I'm kind of tilting them towards one side to give the flower a little bit more movement. So I'll just sketch that out again for you, just quickly. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get French Ochre by Daniel Smith, and we're going to just paint in the middle of this flower. So I am basically just trying to do, you know, as a beginner, this would be kind of your basic wash of a flower. So there's not really any extra techniques here. We're just laying the colour on the page. And you'll see at the end as well, this does turn out to be a really pretty flower as well. So there's nothing wrong with this flower, it's just that there are ways you can enhance this flower. So I'm going to show you those. So, and in the Colour Spotlight series, the Colour sort of Family Spotlight series we're doing at the minute, the next one is pinks, oranges and yellows, and we're going to sort of look at the oranges today because I didn't paint with them in the Colour Spotlight video. So the first thing I'm doing is getting the vermilion. I really like the Daniel Smith Organic Vermilion, and I'm mixing that with pearl white, and then I'm going around the flower. And you can see here I am doing a little bit of dropping in some more colour here as well. So that's one thing that you might be doing, is dropping in some colour, but you can see at the end that it does soften out quite a lot. And that's something I like to start with and then keep monitoring throughout the painting. So start with it soft and keep building it up. But you can see in this painting I just leave it at this point, and we'll see how that looks. And then I'm going in with the Jaune Brilliant No. 2 by Holbein, and I mix this with pearl white as well, and then I'm just putting down a flat wash, and that's it. That will be it for this flower. It's basically under 2 minutes. Okay, so for this flower, we're going to start to add in a few extra techniques. So you can see the first difference there was that I'm going back into the center, and I'm continually dropping extra pigment on the sides of the center there to try and deepen up the side shadow. So in the first flower we only went on once, and now I'm going back in and I am just trying to deepen that up just on the side. And you can see that I'm always leaving and I'll show you close-ups of these as well, but I'm always leaving a little bit of white for the highlight on the sort of top right corner of the center. And I really like to do that if I can, leave the white or make a really soft wash there to preserve that highlight. So now I'm taking some burnt sienna. What am I even saying here? So I'm taking some roasted French ochre, which is similar to a burnt sienna, and I am just applying that in the sort of through the little dots, through the little stamens around the outside of the center. And the way I'm doing them is basically, it's a sort of a zigzag pattern. It's a little bit haphazard, but it's also a sort of a pattern in and then out a little bit, in, out, and sort of zigzagging the dots around the flower like that. And so again, I'm taking more time. I'm going back into the center now and adding more French ochre in the center. And you can see by the first flower that is drying that even though I dropped a little bit more color in the center there of the organic vermilion, it has sort of really softened down, and the flower's pretty much going to stay like that. So for this one, I am continually working and I keep putting color where I want it till it's dry. So I'm keeping a close eye on, is it dry, is it nearly dry, should I put a little bit more color in? You can see there, like, I'll just wipe off a bit with my finger if I don't want the color there. And these are the same colors and mixes that we used for the first flower. The thing is, we are using them over and over again to deepen shadows. So we're still preserving highlights, but we are just enhancing and encouraging those shadows. And I think at this point I actually add in a little bit of Van Dyke brown as well. So you know, your darkest brown, or you can mix a little bit of the dark brown with sort of a medium brown, and I'm adding that in the center to create even more depth. Okay, so this time I'm getting my Jaune Brilliant again, and we're going to work on the petals, but we're going to do them a bit differently. So the first thing I'm doing is that I'm being a little bit more careful where I lay the colour down and how I lay it down. So I'm taking a little bit more time, but I've also considered I want this to be the mid-tone, so not the darkest shadow colour and not the lightest colour. I'm looking for the sort of middle colour that I want on the petals here. And then I'm going back in with a clean sort of dried off brush, and I'm lifting out the highlights. And this is a technique I use all the time, and it's, I think, sometimes overlooked, but it's such a good way to add depth and shading to your watercolor, just lifting out color. And then I am going back in with a little bit more Jaune Brilliant in the mix of the Jaune Brilliant and Pearl White, and I am adding that into just one side of the petals to darken that up. And again, this is all real time, so this is not taking very long, but you can see how just a few more minutes is changing the look of the flower from the first flower to this one. And again, the first flower is still beautiful, but this one, I'm actually going to try and insert a picture here of the first florals that I ever did with watercolor. I mean, it was nothing to write home about, so I feel like at that point, if I had have even produced something like the flower on the left, I would have been so proud. So, but you know, I think these are really easy ways that you can enhance your watercolor. You'll find them really easy and helpful. And so what I'm doing now is just going back to the outer edges of the petal and dropping in some more color. And so I'm just spending more time at lifting out color, adding in color, and just these few extra minutes really make a difference to the end result. And now I think the center's probably almost dry, or barely, yeah, it's probably almost dry. And so I'm going back in and I'm again deepening that color to deepen the contrast and make it look a little bit more rounded. Okay, so there are a couple of different things going on with this painting, and the first is the way that we're going to lay the colour down. So basically what I'm doing is putting in a little bit of French ochre as my shadow, and the rest of the petal is water. So instead of, as in the previous flower, we put in the mid-tones, we're now putting in the highlights. So this flower is not about lifting the colour, this flower is about preserving the white and building up slow layers, and also letting colour just blend on the water and let the water carry the colour. So again, I'm taking the mixes and just adding them to one side of the petal here, and in the outer edge of the water and the inner edge of the water, and kind of letting that spread. And then the next thing I'm doing differently is putting a lighter colour around the centre of the flower here. So we're building up the colour even in the centre slightly differently. And the other thing that I did was, I'm not sure if you kind of noticed this, but the pencil inside the oval, there was more pencil, so that has added to the shadow and the shading in the inside part of this flower. I'm kind of thinking of this flower as more of my own version of an anemone, but so here I'm also changing the colour slightly, so I'm adding a little bit of pink in the centre, and we're going, you know, because watercolour is transparent medium, you can build up different colour tones and layers, so I am working it up slightly differently. And so you'll see me do a bit of lifting here as well, and that's what I mean when I'm always kind of using these techniques together. So I'm constantly either lifting or using white space, or, you know, just putting the water down and allowing that to travel. So at this point I'm doing what I would normally do and leave it to dry for a bit and go and work on something else. So now I am using Daniel Smith Moonstone, and it's just a really gorgeous soft grey with sparkle. So I like to use this quite a lot for shadows, so I'm just putting in some shadows with that. And there are so many ways to make shadows, so we could do a whole series on just how to create different shadows for different colours. But this, and you could actually add a little bit of either a brown or the orange or a contrasting colour into this colour to create a shadow. But sometimes I just like the simplicity of having this on the page and letting the colours of whatever I'm painting shine. Sometimes you just want to let go of the science of colour and colour theory and colour mixing, and just, you know, have something as a sort of a colour there that you can lean on and just use as a no-brainer, or as something that's already pre-mixed for you. And I guess that's why a lot of people like neutral tints or a Payne's grey or something like that. It gives you somewhere to start, you know. And so we are nearly finished with this, and then we're going to sort of glaze and add in some extra movement to this last flower. So because the flower's softer at this point, I'm going to add in a colour that we haven't used so far, and this is the German Green Raw Umber by Daniel Smith. So this is kind of my go-to olive green, and I'm just adding that again on the one side of the petal as the shadow. And then we're going to go back to the Organic Vermilion and create some really bright parts to the centre. And I want to keep working this layer until I'm happy with the color, because this will be the last time that I work this sort of circle around. So then I'm going back into the French ochre, and I'm going over the center of the flower with the French ochre just on the one side. So that's a good way just to keep building layers with the same color, or you can mix it with slightly, you know, with something else, and then, you know, keep adding it. But you can also just add the same color on top of itself to create depth. And so now I'm going back into my mid-tone brown, and I either like Sedona for a warm brown, or roasted French ochre is a cool version of that. So it's sort of like in the burnt sienna family, and I'm just adding that around the center, and I'm calling it done. So hopefully this has given you a little bit of insight into a few different ways that you can build color, layer color, lift, glaze, and do a few extra things to your paintings that will elevate them immediately and with not very much effort. And so before we go, I just also wanted to say a huge thank you. I'm always so thankful for your comments. I'm so thankful for the conversations we have, and for how kind you are, for your insight, and for the things that you share as well, and how other people notice. Like, I've had comments about how lovely all of you are and how much you bring to the table, and so it's just a real pleasure to be doing these videos for you and sharing everything, and I'm really grateful for your comments. And please, if you are feeling like you want to leave a comment, please do so. You know, sometimes things are obvious to you guys that just, you know, I'm second guessing, I'm questioning. Yesterday, the Orbison video I put up, I wasn't going to put it up because that's just kind of what I like to paint personally. And sometimes you just don't know. Like, I'll look at blog posts and from a year ago, and I'll think, you know, I can be more objective because I'm not kind of emotionally invested in it at that point. And I realized there's things I would have changed. So I don't always know, you know, I'm trying, but I really appreciate you guys letting me know. So it is hard for me to figure out, like, should I keep going? Should I just get off YouTube? I just don't know sometimes. So, you know, any feedback that you have, I really appreciate it. Anyway, I will see you guys soon. Bye.